The sun-drenched Sierras of Sinaloa held a silent, watchful gaze over a land caught in a grim duality. Below the azure expanse, where ancient cultures etched their history into arid earth, a modern empire of shadow and steel had taken root. Its invisible tendrils stretched across continents, dictating the flow of illicit currents that fed a global appetite. Here, life pulsed with vibrant, unyielding energy, yet beneath its surface throbbed a quiet dread, a pervasive acknowledgement of an unseen force that shaped destinies with chilling impunity. For too long, the whispers had been true. One man, a myth etched in both fear and awe, had orchestrated this sprawling dominion, his name synonymous with an almost supernatural ability to slip through the tightest nets. Twice, the bastions of state authority, formidable fortresses designed for absolute containment, had proven mere illusions against his audacity. His most recent disappearance, a feat of engineering and raw defiance, saw him vanish into a meticulously crafted tunnel, stretching over a kilometer from his cell to freedom. It wasn't just an escape. It was a grand, theatrical gesture, a profound humiliation delivered to the very institution sworn to uphold order. This act reverberated far beyond the prison walls, becoming a stark emblem of a failing system, a testament to the unyielding power of man who commanded an illicit fortune measured in billions, and whose organization controlled half the cocaine reaching the vast markets of the United States. His freedom became an open wound, a constant reminder of an authority mocked, a sovereignty challenged. The streets of Mexico had, for years, borne witness to the brutal calculus of a ceaseless war, where rival cartels carved out territories in blood and fire. The ongoing conflict ravaged communities, leaving behind a trail of grief and profound sense of injustice. The architect of much of this chaos, now a phantom once more, continued to cast a long, dark shadow over a nation. His continued evasion was not merely a local problem. It had transformed into an international crisis, eroding trust, fueling cynicism, and demanding a response that transcended conventional boundaries. The global community watched, frustrated and increasingly impatient, for a definitive end to this reign of impunity. A palpable weight settled upon the shoulders of those tasked with restoring order. The previous failures had galvanized a new, unwavering resolve. This was no longer just about apprehending criminal. It was about reclaiming the very fabric of justice, about proving that no power, however entrenched, however audacious, could operate above the law indefinitely. The challenge was monumental, requiring a departure from old playbooks, an embrace of new methodologies. The enemy was not just a man, but a sophisticated, hydra-headed network, adaptable and ruthless. The pursuit would demand an unprecedented synergy of intelligence, technology, and the kind of quiet, unwavering courage that risked everything against an adversary who seemed to thrive in the shadows. The stage was set for a desperate, methodical hunt, an intricate dance between predator and prey, where the very soul of a nation hung in precarious balance. The air itself seemed to crackle with an unspoken tension, an expectation of the reckoning to come. A new chapter began, not with bang, but with the quiet, determined assembly of minds convinced that the extraordinary circumstances demanded an equally extraordinary response. The operation, christened Black Swan, alluded to the improbable, the outlier event that defied common expectation, recognizing the monumental challenge of capturing a figure previously deemed untouchable. This initiative was not merely a continuation of past efforts, but a complete recalibration, a strategic pivot towards novel methodologies and an unprecedented integration of resources. It represented a collective refusal to accept the prevailing narrative of invincibility, signaling a profound shift in resolve from reactive containment to proactive eradication of a perceived threat. The synergy forged between the Mexican Navy and the United States Drug Enforcement Administration manifested as a finely tuned instrument of detection. Beyond a simple pooling of assets, it involved the painstaking creation of a shared operational doctrine, bridging distinct protocols and cultural nuances that often complicate international efforts. Analysts from both agencies spent countless hours in secure joint facilities, dissecting fragmented intelligence, cross-referencing vast datasets, and building comprehensive profiles of the elusive targets known as associates and their intricate networks. This wasn't merely about exchanging tip-offs. It was about embedding personnel, fostering direct lines of communication, and cultivating mutual trust where past distrust might have festered. Technological advancements formed the vanguard of this renewed pursuit. High-altitude surveillance aircraft, equipped with sophisticated electro-optical and infrared sensors, silently crisscross vast, rugged landscapes, their unblinking eyes scanning for anomalies in the familiar patterns of life below. These aerial platforms relayed torrents of data, processed by algorithms designed to detect subtle changes in vehicle movements, human activity, or power consumption that might betray the presence of a high-value fugitive. Furthermore, a new generation of stealthy, long-endurance drones provided persistent, low-altitude observation capabilities, capable of distinguishing individual faces and vehicle license plates even in challenging conditions, transforming vast swathes of remote territory into a visible grid. Concurrently, the task force launched a deep dive into digital forensics and communications interception, moving beyond traditional wiretaps. Specialists deployed sophisticated signal intelligence tools to map out communication patterns, identifying encrypted channels and digital fingerprints that, when correlated with other intelligence streams, painted an increasingly detailed picture of the target's operational sphere. This involved not only monitoring phone calls, but also analyzing metadata, tracing digital currency transactions, and even exploring the dark web for clues, a testament to the evolving battleground where information itself became a weapon. Crucially, the strategy incorporated a profound understanding of human behavior, seeking to exploit the psychological vulnerabilities inherent in even the most hardened criminal enterprises. Intelligence operatives focus on identifying points of friction within the organization, exploring the motivations of disgruntled subordinates or peripheral figures who might inadvertently or deliberately provide critical insights. This required a delicate balancing act, navigating a treacherous terrain of loyalty and fear, using both persuasion and carefully calibrated pressure to elicit actionable intelligence. The goal was to dismantle protective layers not just through brute force, but through intellectual penetration, turning the target's own network against him. Such painstaking preparation demanded immense patience and a meticulous approach, drawing lessons from previous operational setbacks. Every piece of intelligence, no matter how minor, underwent rigorous verification, often cross-referenced through multiple independent sources. The team understood that haste could lead to devastating errors, sacrificing the element of surprise and potentially endangering personnel. Consequently, a culture of disciplined restraint prevailed, where the emphasis lay on building an irrefutable case, minimizing collateral impact, and ensuring that when the moment of truth finally arrived, it would be executed with surgical precision and overwhelming force. This methodical accumulation of detail, piece by painstaking piece, gradually narrowed the vast expanse of the world down to a few critical coordinates. The long shadow cast by an almost mythical figure, whose audacious defiance had so profoundly challenged the very foundations of state authority, gradually began to encounter an evolving counterforce. Reflecting on this journey so far, one discerns a powerful shift, a collective awakening from the stasis of past failures to an invigorated pursuit of justice. The initial frustrations born from seemingly insurmountable barriers and a pervasive sense of impunity slowly gave way to a burgeoning resolve, signaling a fundamental realignment of priorities and methodologies. It was an acknowledgement that the extraordinary nature of the challenge demanded an equally unconventional, yet meticulously disciplined, response. Drawing these strands together, one observes the intricate weaving of disparate threads into a formidable tapestry of intelligence. What once appeared as fragmented whispers in the wind or isolated data points began to coalesce under the patient scrutiny of dedicated minds. The relentless application of advanced analytical frameworks, combined with an unwavering commitment to detail, transformed raw information into actionable insights. This systematic approach, an intellectual siege laid against a formidable fortress of secrecy and influence, incrementally eroded the target's protective layers. It became less about singular heroic acts and more about the synchronized precision of an ensemble, each component playing a vital role in dismantling an entrenched power structure. In light of these insights, the path forward, though still fraught with peril, gained a clarity previously unattainable. The psychological landscape, previously shrouded in the opaqueness of fear and loyalty, yielded subtle contours under careful examination. Understanding the intrinsic vulnerabilities within any sprawling enterprise, even one built on terror and allegiance, proved as critical as technical prowess. The quiet erosion of trust, the calculated application of pressure, and the patient mapping of interpersonal dynamics within the clandestine network started to fracture its perceived impermeability. This was a battle fought as much in the minds of the operatives and their targets as it was in the physical realm, a testament to the comprehensive nature of the renewed strategy. As we pivot towards a final reflection, the cumulative effect of these integrated efforts becomes strikingly apparent. The seemingly boundless expanse where such power once operated with impunity began to shrink, constrained by an ever-tightening net of surveillance and strategic pressure. The inherent audacity that fueled past escapes now found itself facing an adversary that had learned, adapted, and evolved. The constant, almost imperceptible hum of overhead vigilance, coupled with the silent tracing of digital breadcrumbs, created an inescapable presence, transforming once secure havens into potential traps. This relentless, multifaceted pressure created an environment where the previously unthinkable now seemed not only possible, but increasingly inevitable. The narrative arc of this extraordinary pursuit underscores a profound impact a collective when directed with unyielding purpose and innovative spirit. The stakes, always immense with communities grappling with the pervasive shadow of illicit power, gained an international resonance, transforming a domestic challenge into a global testament to the enduring quest for rule of law. The meticulous accumulation of evidence, the careful correlation of intelligence from diverse sources, and the disciplined execution of a long-term strategy converged, signaling an approaching moment of undeniable reckoning. This was not a sudden strike, but the culmination of a deliberate, patient campaign, a testament to the quiet power of sustained resolve against even the most entrenched and elusive adversaries, positioning the narrative on the very precipice of its defining confrontation. The air thickens with the unspoken anticipation of an outcome that promises to echo far beyond the immediate conclusion. The pre-dawn hours of January 8, 2016, descended upon Los Mochis, Sinaloa, not with the usual tranquility, but with an almost imperceptible hum of finely tuned machinery. The culmination of meticulous planning, countless hours of surveillance, and profound commitment to detail had narrowed the vastness of a global search to a single, unassuming residence. The atmosphere within the Mexican Navy Special Forces units, poised for entry, was a complex blend of disciplined calm and sharpened anticipation. Each operative understood the immense significance of their impending actions, the weight of national and international expectations resting squarely on their shoulders. The assault was initiated with precise, coordinated movements, a torrent of highly trained personnel breaching the stronghold with surgical efficiency. The initial breach, however, was met not with surrender, but with a sudden, violent eruption of gunfire. The confined spaces of the hideout transformed instantly into a maelstrom of flashing muzzles, ricocheting rounds, and the guttural shouts of combat. The air grew thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder, a visceral testament to the ferocity of the close-quarters engagement. 5 figures loyal to their master fell in the brutal exchange, their resistance proving futile against the overwhelming force and tactical superiority of the assaulting teams. Amidst the chaos and cacophony of the firefight, the primary target, recognizing the utter futility of direct confrontation, sought the familiar solace of evasion. His escape route, a cunningly concealed passage beneath a bathtub, led directly into the city's labyrinthine sewer system, a subterranean world he knew intimately from previous desperate flights. He plunged into darkness, navigating the grimy, claustrophobic tunnels, the echo of the distant gunfire fading behind him, a desperate gambit for freedom playing out in the murky depths. The stench of effluent, the damp chill, and the suffocating darkness were familiar companions in his desperate attempts to outrun capture. Above ground, the special forces, anticipating precisely such a move, did not break pursuit. Their rapid assessment of the situation, fueled by preemptive intelligence, led them to the most probable sewer exits. The chase extended beyond the subterranean passages, as the fugitive eventually emerged from a manhole, disoriented and desperate, into the pale glow of the streetlights. His brief moment of perceived freedom was brutally short-lived. He seized a passing vehicle, a desperate, last-ditch attempt to vanish into the urban sprawl. However, the coordinated response had already sealed off exit routes, transforming the city into a strategic snare. Within moments, a patrol unit, alerted to his escape and current vector, intercepted the vehicle. The capture was swift, decisive, and devoid of further violence. The man who had twice humiliated two nations' security apparatus, the architect of a billion-dollar empire, was now a disheveled, defeated figure, his legendary cunning finally exhausted. His reign of power, built on fear and an almost supernatural ability to escape, had reached its definitive end. The sheer audacity of his previous evasions, particularly the engineering marvel of the tunnel, underscored the magnitude of this capture, signaling a profound shift in the balance of power. The subsequent legal proceedings were a foregone conclusion. Extradited to the United States, the legal machinery moved with an unyielding certainty, culminating in a sentence of life imprisonment. This finality transcended mere incarceration. It represented a symbolic dismantling of an era characterized by unparalleled criminal influence and pervasive impunity. The successful operation, dubbed Black Swan, cemented its place in the annals of law enforcement, a testament to the relentless courage and unwavering precision of the agents who had risked everything. It became a powerful emblem of police intelligence, international coordination, and the ultimate triumph of justice over seemingly insurmountable odds. The closure of such a monumental chapter, marked by the clang of a prison cell door, resonated far beyond the confines of the courtroom or the immediate theater of operations. Formal statements and comprehensive reports meticulously documented the intricate details of Operation Black Swan. Yet these official pronouncements only capture a fraction of the profound impact felt by those who had lived under the shadow of its subjects' influence. For the communities ravaged by ceaseless conflict and the corrosive despair of unchecked power, the finality brought a tentative, unfamiliar sense of peace, a fragile hope for a future less defined by violence. The men and women of the various task forces, both national and international, carried the indelible marks of their extraordinary undertaking. The physical scars of the final confrontation faded, but the internal landscape of each operative bore the imprints of sustained tension, relentless vigilance, and the profound moral complexities inherent in such high-stakes pursuits. Lessons learned were etched not just into operational protocols, but into the very psyches of those involved, forging a deeper understanding of resilience, strategic patience, and the sheer cost of upholding justice against forces of such magnitude. Professional consequences, both positive and negative, unfolded as careers were assessed against the backdrop of this pivotal success, reshaping the trajectories of many within the law enforcement apparatus. Reflecting on this journey, one is confronted with a closing meditation on the multifaceted nature of truth and justice. The absolute certainty of the law's final judgment stood in stark contrast to the nuanced realities of power, corruption, and the human condition that had allowed such an empire to flourish. The cost of achieving this truth was immeasurable, paid in the collective trauma of communities, the relentless dedication of countless individuals, and the ethical compromises sometimes necessitated by the pursuit of a greater good. It underscored that justice, while often depicted as a blind scale in practice, frequently navigated morally ambiguous terrains, leaving behind its own set of unresolved questions regarding systemic vulnerabilities and the cyclical nature of human ambition. The saga concluded, not with triumphant fanfare, but with the quiet dignity of a critical objective achieved, an enduring symbol of what coordinated, relentless effort could accomplish. The capture transcended its immediate impact, becoming an evocative emblem that resonated with deeper themes of integrity, doubt, and the persistent human struggle against the forces that seek to undermine societal order. The image that lingered was not of a celebratory crowd, but perhaps a lone officer standing watch on a deserted street. The faint siren in the distance, a stark reminder that while one battle had been won, the intricate, unending dance between law and transgression would forever continue, eternally testing the fragile boundaries of a just society. The finality of prison cell door, once an impossible barrier for a man of legend, marked more than just the end of a single criminal's reign. It signaled profound recalibration, an emphatic declaration that even the most audacious defiance of state authority possessed a finite lifespan. This wasn't merely a capture. It was a symbolic dismantling of an entire mythology, painstakingly constructed through years of evasion and an almost supernatural ability to elude consequence. The pervasive shadow of an illicit empire, which had for too long dictated the flow of vice in the terms of fear, began to recede, offering a glimpse of a future where order, however fragile, might yet prevail over anarchy. The victory, hard-won and meticulously orchestrated, arrived steeped in the quiet echoes of a struggle that had exacted a heavy toll. Beyond the tactical triumphs lay the human cost. The countless lives disrupted by violence, the integrity of institutions challenged, and the deep, pervasive fear that had long silenced communities. For those on the front line, the relentless pursuit left indelible marks, a testament to the emotional and ethical burden of navigating the shadows where justice and law often blurred into a nuanced, unsettling gray. Their courage, though celebrated, was forged in the crucible of constant peril, and the complex moral dilemmas inherent in confronting such entrenched power. The scars of the struggle were etched not just into tactical reports, but into the very fabric of societies that had endured the reign of impunity. Yet, the removal of one formidable architect of crime did not erase the intricate tapestry of illicit enterprise. It merely altered its form, prompting an inevitable evolution in the ever-shifting landscape of global contraband. The underlying vulnerabilities, socioeconomic disparities, endemic corruption, and the relentless pull of illicit profits persisted, fertile ground for new figures to emerge, new networks to weave their insidious webs. The true insight gleaned from this monumental success was not that evil could be entirely vanquished, but that it could be countered, contained, and persistently challenged through an unwavering commitment to adapt, to innovate, and to collaborate across borders. It affirmed that the battle for justice is a dynamic, continuous process, demanding constant evolution from those tasked with its defense. Thus, the narrative culminates not with definitive end, but with a potent affirmation of eternal vigilance. The triumph served as a powerful validation of human ingenuity, strategic patience, and the unyielding spirit of those who dedicate themselves to the arduous task of upholding the rule of law. It underscored that justice, while occasionally delivering a definitive pronouncement, is primarily an ongoing practice, a continuous, adaptive engagement with the evolving complexities of human nature and its darker impulses. The true practice begins now in the quiet, persistent work of fortifying institutions, fostering resilience in communities, and ensuring that the lessons of hard-won victories translate into a lasting, foundational strength against the persistent allure of chaos. The reverberations of that final capture continue to ripple outward, a constant, subtle reminder that the scales of justice, however slowly, inevitably tip toward accountability, demanding perpetual guardianship from all who believe in a more equitable world.